Welcome back, everyone. This is Fred with Fred's Fine Automobiles. Today we have a 1989 Toyota Corolla with the 1.6 liter 4AF carbureted engine and a 3-speed automatic transmission. The seller did tell me that the transmission was bad, and I soon learned that these transmissions are notorious for having their differentials run dry. It is completely separate from the transmission, so if there are any leaks at the axle seals or the cover gasket, you'll very quickly run it dry and grenade the differential. I did try to fill the differential to see if it would help our case at all, but it did not. If you don't want to watch me fill the differential, you can go ahead and skip to 327. So here's what it sounds like when we start it. Sounds like when we try to switch gears. So we're not going to do that anymore. So here's the old plug, and here's where I used to get it out. 17mm extractor socket and an 1 1/16 ratcheting wrench. Now we're going to see how much fluid we can add to the system. I'm going to add some Valvoline Max Life using this sort of hand pump with a tube to the fill. So as I suspected, the differential was completely dry. I'm going to reinstall the plug with a new gasket until I can get a new plug in, 17mm. All right, let's test it out. Change gears. Oh yeah, still bad. Based on the A131L manual and the fact that the differential and transmission fluids are full, and that when I'm shifting the lever, it's trying to engage in the correct positions. My guess is that it's probably the torque converter, the front or rear planetary gear. Could be something else, but we'll find out when we get inside the transmission. So there's no way around it. We are going to have to pull the transmission in order to see what's going on. I've got it in my garage now, so let's get started. We'll start by removing the battery. Remove the negative first, 10mm. The hold down is 2 10mm. Get the hook out, move the hold down, and lift the battery out. We'll chalk our rear wheels. Set your parking brake. Jack up the car via the middle of the center subframe. going to use the pinch weld just behind the front tire. I'm only doing this, which I normally do this, so I have these nice pucks for pinch welds, and there's not a lot of great places to put a jack on these cars. I'm going to drain the differential and transmission pan fully. They're both a 10mm hex. So here are our plugs. This is the transmission. There's a little bit of metal in that one, but nothing too crazy. Here is our differential. Quite a bit of metal on that one. Which isn't a big surprise because the differential was run dry on this one. Yeah, there's a pretty solid shard right there. Next we'll remove the caliper. It's two 17mm bolts. Then we'll remove the caliper. And we'll just hang it up with a piece of wire. Then remove the rotor. Next we'll remove our cotter pin. and our retaining nut. So to crack this loose, this will be our setup. 2 lug nuts here, bar braced against jack stand. This is a 30mm. And I put that on the wrong one. Remove your tie rod castle nut. Next, we'll remove the strut bolts. Calipers once again in the way. Using this to hold the other side. There we go. So now move over to the driver's side and remove our tie rod. Next, remove your caliper bolts. Bottom one should be 17, but I think it's now a 19. Put my tie rod back in the knuckle just so I have some support when removing the spindle nut. Now I'll take our 30mm, crack the nut. Now we'll remove our strut bolts. Remove a tie rod and remove our CV axle. Next, we'll try to pop this CV axle out. One of these rope tools. Just gonna wrap it around this end. Nice and snug. And we'll use a 3-pound hammer to try to pop it out. And we're going to pop our CV axle out using the same method we did on the other side. Next, we'll remove this subframe. There's some 10mm bolts holding the cover on. It's 117, 219s here. Remove this dust cover. And there's two 17mm bolts. Nuts, sorry. Remove the second dust cover. And 2 more 17mm nuts. Going to remove the exhaust just because it's in the way. 2 14mm. Next, we'll remove the subframe mount bolts. There's one there. This one for me is actually a 13mm for some reason. Then a 14mm on the other side. Now we'll remove the mount that's on the subframe. Just pull it down. Remove the cover plate for the torque converter to flywheel bolts. Now we'll remove the 12mm bolts that connect the flywheel to the torque converter. Next we'll remove the 14mm starter bolts. And the second starter bolt is just below this heater hose that is below the fuel pump, which is right here. Now our starter is disconnected. Next we'll remove our speedometer driven gear linkage cable. Disconnect your linkage cable from the neutral safety switch. Should be a 12mm. And disconnect our neutral safety switch connector. Remove a couple of our cooling hoses. We'll remove our 2 transmission linkage bracket bolts. Which are 12 millimeter. Next, remove your transmission throttle cable. Loosen your 14 millimeter linkage nut. Remove it from the bracket. Now your cable should be free. All right, so we're now almost ready to pull the transmission, but first I want to make some modifications to my transmission jack. I want to be able to put a ratchet strap going this way, so I'm going to make a hole here and here, throw some bolts in, and then I'll be able to hook the ratchet strap around the transmission. All right, so here's my finished product. Got my bolt here, throw a piece of wood on it, but it looks like I only have like 6-7 inches clearance. So I'm gonna raise the car up quite a bit more so I can easily take the transmission out. Drilled a couple of holes so the wood will sit flat on the jack. All right, so here's my final routing of the ratchet strap. Under the harness, over the top of the transmission, right next to the neutral safety switch, and over the back, the differential. bottom. Now I'm going to remove the front mount to give us more clearance going this way. That one was 17, bracket bolts are 14. This top bolt's being a little stubborn, so we hit it with a torch. So unfortunately I am going to have to drop the subframe a little bit. I need just enough to clear these bolts because I cannot get these bolts for the bracket that are attached to the transmission out. There's just not enough clearance to crack those loose. So this whole thing needs to get clear of the subframe. These are all 19s. This one's 14. I do have my jack positioned while I loosen these last ones. As you can see, I am dropping the entire subframe just because it's easier to get that clearance. All right, now at the front, I used a pry bar up on the engine mount to pop it out of the subframe. Now I'll be able to pull out our center member here. 17mm bolt here. The 17mm bolt here. These two 14mm bolts. One 14 right here. Then there are two 17s up top here. At this point, we're going to just have our jack under the oil pan of the engine and then wiggle our transmission off of the engine. Alright guys, that wraps up the removal of the transmission. Next time, we're going to be completely disassembling this transmission to try to figure out what went wrong. We have a donor transmission from a 2001 Corolla, which is the same transmission, a few different things they changed on it over the years. So we're going to rip everything out of this one, try to see what parts were actually broken, then do a complete overhaul of gaskets, parts, anything else that might need to be replaced. Thanks for watching. See you next time.